What is going on? Let's talk about student groups and how we work in the shop. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so I don't even know where to begin with this. That was a long pause that's going to be edited out. First things first, I've been getting a lot of work done in my shop, me personally, and maintenance to try to get everything back to working shape as soon as I possibly could. And they replaced a light. And the freaking light, I never took it really for granted or never understood that light until I have it now. And it's right above, like peeking through this window into my office and damn near blinding me. So that's fantastic. I'm going not to curse the gods above because I'm glad it's there. It really brightens up my shop. I mean, I have 6 lights. I only have like 5. Well, I guess I have 9 lights, but I only really have 5. Anyways, I mean, I don't know. So yeah, the light really is kind of reflecting. It's just kind of giving me, I mean, I already have a headache, but it's kind of making it go on. Anyways, with this new school year, we finally started school this Tuesday. I was pretty pumped for it. I mean, I guess I was a lie. I don't like online learning. It's really difficult, not super fun. But anyways, to each their own. We started school and the district makes us go through different training, like we don't know what to do, I guess. So with this training, we got to attend different sessions and they were actually really good. I do have to say they were very well done. But one of them is kind of the purpose of this talk. We were talking about breakout rooms. My department head was leading that one. So it was kind of cheating for me to go to that one. But honestly, like all the other ones seemed kind of boring. And I don't know. Anyways, so I went to hers and I was kind of reviewing things. And she said something that kind of struck me, which was kind of funny. I mean, I already knew this was coming before. But when you go into breakout rooms virtually, you assign student jobs. And when I was in high school, especially in science class, we always got jobs when we were in a group. There was always someone that was a recorder, someone that was the leader, yada, 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 and they flipped roles as we go on. But it made me think about my own shop and how I kind of handle things as well. And I guess subconsciously, I kind of do that too. So to give you kind of a perspective of how my shop is set up, I have 6 tables. I typically put 4 to 5 students at each table. One student at that table is I call the supervisor, and I actually stole this technique from my other coworker who teaches welding at my school. This was a fantastic idea and something that I kind of embodied tremendously, and it really worked out well, and I'll tell you the reason why. So naturally in every class there's going to be kids who want to be supervisors, who want to be in charge or lead. And so when we make projects, the goal of the project, if it's a group project, to work as a team and complete this project as the customer, or in my case the boss, demands it, or at least gives it to you, right? Like assigns it. So that being said, it's important that we take a good long look at what our boss wants or what our customer wants. The supervisor's job is to make sure his group is going as well as possible, and if there's an issue, he brings it up to the boss. There is nothing like having 6 kids run up to you versus 30 kids run up to you with problems, right? 6 is easier to solve than 30, so I always have 1 kid as my point person. Early on in the group selection process, I assign a student a supervisor. There is an option if a student wants to move up into a supervisor position. There is an option for that. There's also an option for a student to move down. He's like, I don't really want all this responsibility. But the supervisor does a lot of things. For example, I check out tools. There's a box that has all the tools. Supervisors have to sign off on that toolbox saying that they know that every tool that should be in there is in there, right? They do all the check. They're in charge of all the tools, and they're the ones I come to if there's an issue, right? Each one of my toolboxes inside has a form that they fill out, kind of like a little check sheet. So, and if there's like any problems that a tool breaks or whatever, then my student supervisor brings it up to my attention and gives me ample notice of that, so I can go through and fix that if I need to. I think having a supervisor is super important when it comes down to any sort of function for a job, because when you work at a job, you're always going to have someone who is your supervisor, your immediate supervisor. Then that person is a supervisor, and that person is a supervisor, and then all the way up until the boss or the owner, or whatever you want to call it, right? Everyone always has some sort of supervisor above them. If you don't, then you have, technically, I would even say a CEO or an owner has a supervisor, and that's the customer, right? That's someone who always checks respects their job and makes sure they're doing their job the best they possibly can. That being said, it's important for kids to understand this hierarchy early on. I think that's fantastic that, science classes have someone or assigned jobs, right? They have someone who is a supervisor or a leader. Same thing for my class. I have a lot of special needs students in my classes. Why? I have no idea. If you were to ask me, I would say, having a special needs kid is extremely dangerous. You're around tools like nail guns. You're around crazy tools that could potentially really hurt a kid. And the other side of me is absolutely, every kid should be in this class. These are real life skills that a kid needs to do. This is real world stuff, and this is going to help him later on, him or her, right? So understand, I have very much mixed emotions about this whole deal. That being said, I want students to understand, or at least special ed students to understand, that I appreciate them in my class. Every student gets a job. It depends on what job the special needs student wants to do. Many of my special needs students are afraid of the tools in my shop. Understandably, it's a loud noise. They're, very much afraid. I have some students that have the mindset of a third or second grader. I can't even imagine a third or second grader using these huge power tools. So I give them the choice, right? We always try first, right? The supervisor there always helps and tries and helps them through everything. But then I figure out different jobs that may be appropriate. I, for example, had a kid who loves to paint things. Absolutely loves it. Okay, well, once the group is done sanding and doing that sort of thing with their project, you can finish and paint it, right? And it goes just like a regular kind of job. You finish your job and it goes to someone else for them to do their job. It's so important for kids to understand the role in a workplace, the role you'd have, the job you took. I always make sure to try to rotate jobs too, right? The supervisor usually won't rotate, but other jobs will. Okay, you're the sander. You are the person that's going to be assembling. You are the person that's going to be finishing, yada, yada, yada. I try my hardest to rotate and make sure every student gets a hand at each job. Sometimes it's a little hard, but most of the time I do, nail the job pretty easily. When it comes down to students and actually utilizing the job site or the workplace is what I call my classroom, the most important skill for him to learn is how to be able to work underneath someone else's leadership, not their own leadership. Yes, we do build individual projects and a student's in charge of that project. However, when we work with group projects, those are by far more beneficial to students. It teaches them more about the process and the social aspects of work rather than the actual work itself, which is dangerous because you do want to teach them how to work. You do want to teach them the skill. And if they're working in a group, they may not learn the skill. So I really try my best to kind of flip-flop back and forth and make sure it kind of goes hand in hand a little bit there. The second most important thing is to understand how to clean up. I don't know if I can say this any louder, but make sure if you are working or if you're a teacher or if you're a boss, make sure your employees clean up. Make sure they have respect for the workplace. Because if they take pride in their work area, they take pride in their workplace, they're going to take pride in whatever job you give them. The same goes for any classroom environment. Make the students clean up. It's only fair to the next class. It's only fair to the next class. It's only fair to the next class, right? Every class as it goes, it's only fair to them. So make sure they clean up so everyone else has a nice area to walk and work in. And I think that's the most important part with any sort of education is to make sure there is ample time for cleanup. I think when a student goes to a job, the most talked about thing about that student is how well they take care of their work area. Most jobs I've been to, I was taught how to do the job. There are a few things they did not teach me because they assumed I already knew how to do those things. For example, one of those things, or some of those things, would be taking care of the work area, managing one's time, and doing that sort of jazz. So if they're able to manage their time and take care of their work area, then they're going to be able to give you higher quality projects because they don't have to worry about if their work area is dirty or not from the last person. They're able to focus on the task at hand and at the very end of the task, clean up the work area so the next person that has to use that area can be focused as well. And that's only fair. That goes for science, that goes for floral design, that goes for math class, that goes for any class you can possibly think of. It's so important for kids to understand the process process of cleaning up, also the process of having someone that's in charge of them. A lot of kids don't like that. They don't like having someone that is in charge. They want to be in charge. And that's not usually, the case with your extroverts, introverts. The introverts necessarily don't care, but the extroverts always want to be in charge. And there's a point where they have to learn how to be a follower instead of a leader. And I talked about this in my first podcast, and the quality kind of made that first podcast kind of bad. But we talked about what a leader is and what makes a leader. And it's something I always kind of fell back on was a leader should not get any praise, right? The workers, the followers are doing all the work. The leader's only successful when the followers are successful. If their followers or if their workers are not doing their job or are not successful at their job, the leader is not successful anymore. That's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem with this society is that we put all of our focus into the leaders, but we don't care about the workers. We don't care about the people actually doing the work. Regardless of who that person is, a lot of the care isn't put towards them. And I think that's the hardest part. I think that's the issue. And if students learn that early on, that, okay, this person's the leader, I have to do what he has to say, if they learn that early on, then they're able to be more successful. They're able to succeed better in the workplace, in the classroom. So if you're a job owner, if you're a workplace owner, or just a store owner, whatever owner, or you're a boss, think about your worker. Think about maybe the awards that you won. Were those awards for your own skills? Yeah, they probably were. But are there awards that are directly attributed to your workers? Probably, yeah. More than likely, if your company has recently passed $1 million in sales or $1,000 in sales, whatever you want to call your milestone, it wasn't you that did it. It was your workers that did it. You just picked good workers, or you just led your workers successfully, but your workers actually did all the work. They are the ones that sold the $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, whatever you want to count. Anyways, they're the ones that sold it. Very rarely will a worker or a boss sell that $1 million sale or make that $1 million sale. It's probably a worker that did that. It's okay to praise your workers, your supervisors. It's okay to look back and be like, you did a great job. And I think students need that. They need to understand that, hey, you're doing a good job. Or, hey, we need to do better here. And when it comes down to selecting jobs for students and then giving students critique, it's not a it's not a you need to do better. We need to do better. We are in this together. You and the person, the supervisor, the kid, the adult, whatever, you're in this together with them. You have to be included. If they failed, you failed. We failed. Take that ownership. I've recommended this book before in earlier podcasts, but I want to make sure I recommend it again. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink is a fantastic book. If you are in the leadership position or if you want to be a leader, that is a fantastic book to read. It's about taking up ownership to the extreme and just admitting that you're owning it, right? You're owning that failure, that win, whatever, right? A true leader owns the failures of their workers. A true leader gives the workers the win. Just like the shepherd protects his sheep. You need to protect your students, your supervisors, whoever you're in charge of. You need to protect them. Okay, let's segue back real quick to classroom groups and jobs I assign students. For SHOP, in case you want to know the actual jobs that a student has. There is always going to be a supervisor. There's always going to be a assembler, and most students can help with assembly and holding things into place, that sort of thing. There is going to be a materials person, gets all the materials, gets all the tools, that sort of thing. And there usually is always going to be a finisher. Now, the person that's in charge has the most jobs. They are in charge of checking all the tools for problems. They're in charge of checking all the materials for problems. They're in charge of getting all the cleaning supplies and making sure cleaning is taking place by everyone. It's everyone's job to clean. Some teachers make cleaning a one-person job, like, hey, it's just your job to clean. No, everyone has to clean in my classroom. Everyone. It's important to understand and to learn and to value what cleaning is. So, once they go through that, and once they understand that whole process, then it becomes pretty important. So, I would ensure if you're teaching SHOP, you have those jobs. If you don't have jobs, like that's kind of stupid, try it out. Just hear me out a little bit. Try it for a project or 2 projects, right? Give it a little bit of time. Try it for 2 projects. See how it goes. If it doesn't work out for you, okay, that's fine. You gave it a good college try. But if it does work out for you, fantastic. It's worked. If you're a science teacher, right, they call the person that's the supervisor the lead lead scientist. You could also have a technician. You can have, that's the person that shares their screen, that sort of thing. You can have a journalist. You can also have a couple other people too. It just depends on what job. Same goes with math, English, that sort of thing. Everyone should have a job in your groups. And I think when we think about student jobs, we get very scared about it because, man, we gave students maybe too much power. We gave students too much whatever. Well, that's okay. They need to have that responsibility, that sense of leadership. If they don't have that, then they're really kind of pushed back or set back from where they should be. So make sure that they at least have some sort of responsibility, right? Make sure there's some sort of responsibility for those students. So that's kind of what I want to leave you guys on. I know this is a little bit shorter of a podcast episode today. I mean, it's about roughly where it should be. I mean, I think it's going to be about 18 minutes long. But I have some exciting stuff coming up, and I've been really working hard on some different things. So next week's episode is going to be really exciting. Hey, I love all the support you guys gave me for the Invoice podcast. I know it wasn't the most exciting one, but it was something very important and something we should talk about. So I really appreciate every single one of you. I hope every single one of you are safe and having a great time as best you can. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, a great start of your day, and I will talk to you guys next week. Episode 22 in the books. Peace. This has been an episode of the Chip Happens podcast. Thank you all for listening, and I will catch you next week with another exciting episode.